Miami was shorthanded, but had more than enough to blow out the Wizards for their fifth straight win. Have the Heat turned a corner, or is it too little too late? We'll answer that and more in today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Jam-packed show for you today. We've got credit cookies. I want to get to Pelle Larsson and some interesting developments in the Eastern Conference standings here in a second. But first, recording this on Monday night after the Heat's blowout win over the Wizards. They led by double digits from the 10-minute mark of the second quarter and all the way through. No need to overanalyze this one, David, at least in my mind. The Wizards stink. The Heat are playing well. Bam and Tyler Herro were the best players on the court. And now the Heat have won 5 in a row. How much do you make of this win streak, considering that it's been a pretty soft schedule here?
Yeah, it's really hard to read too much into it. As I mentioned recently, I still think the process is good and they're doing things better. They've tightened their rotation. They're getting their most out of their role players and they're taking advantage of those opportunities. This has been who this Heat team has been for most of the last few seasons, including the Jimmy Butler era, where they've been able to beat bad teams. They don't necessarily beat the good ones. And so now that they've taken advantage of this softer portion of the schedule, at least they're doing their jobs. But between their historic three-point shooting, which was not apparent against the Wizards, they've also I think they're playing better defense. They're figuring out their roles a little bit more effectively. They're getting into a nice comfortable rhythm in terms of the rotation and playing alongside one another. And they kind of understand where the pieces fit a lot more effectively. It's a very stark contrast from where this team was just a few weeks ago when they didn't look like they were capable of doing these sorts of things for a prolonged period of time. And even though they had a double-digit lead going into the fourth, a few weeks ago during the losing streak, I don't think either of us would have been comfortable saying that they were going to win this game, especially, despite, or I should say, the fact that they were going up against the Wizards. However, they did their job in the fourth quarter. They got some nice contributions from a couple key players, and they were able to extend their lead even further, leading to the blowout victory. So to me, I'm looking at it as a positive. Winning is always a good thing. I understand a lot of fans are probably looking forward to the tank and improving their lottery odds and things of that sort. But for Miami, that was never the goal. It was about kind of figuring things out. Erik Spoelstra said it ad nauseum during the losing streak that they were playing good basketball, that they were still making winning plays, that they were getting better and better. It just wasn't translating into victories. Now, however, you've finally seen you've seen it kind of manifest the way it was supposed to. It feels to me like it's too little too late, but it's also coming at the right time in terms of, well, better late than never.
Yeah, you mentioned how this team just kept blowing double-digit leads, and it never really mattered whether they were up 10 or down 10 or up 20 or down 20. It always ended up being a clutch game at the end, and my takeaway from this game was really boring. And sometimes boring is good. Boring in a good way. They got a lead, and they got a double-digit lead early, just held on to it. That was the game. The Wizards are actively trying not to win games. Congrats, mission accomplished to them. I don't know that I've seen a worse defense.
Yeah.
It was just point of attack defense in air quotes there. There was a person out there on the court between the Heat player and the basket for a couple of seconds, and then the Heat player would get past that player, and then there was just zero rotations by the Wizards on the back line. They were like, oh, you got past that guy? Go on ahead. Miami had 68 points in the paint in this game. It's just completely wild. We mentioned yesterday, David, about Miami's Golden State Warriors dynasty level of three-point shooting that they were making, and it was like, all right, well, can they actually win a game when they're not shooting like that? Well, 28% shooting tonight from deep, 9 of 32 overall from three-point range. Didn't matter. Still blew them out. Yes, it's the Wizards. But it's, whatever. You can only play the teams in front of you. But look, it was a nice It was a nice, boring win. That's all that counts. And now they've won 5 in a row, and they're feeling better going into that game Wednesday night in Boston. You mentioned, though, it's like, it's a little too late. Bam kind of said the same thing in the post-game interview with Eric Reed and John Crotty on the broadcast. He was like, it kind of sucks that it's been this late in the regular season that things are starting to click for us. Yeah. And I do think things are clicking. I don't think it's just the cupcake schedule, although it is helping. But hey, everybody needs a little wind in their sails, and it feels like Miami does, and I think this game Wednesday is going to be a really nice test for them.
I agree. I'm looking forward to it in a way that I would not have said that was possible a few weeks ago during the losing streak. That would have been easily a 30-point blowout. And it might result, the result might be the same anyway.
Sure.
I mean, the Celtics are a very good team, although they're facing some injury issues and things of that sort. But, they're in a lot better position now than they were at the start of the win streak, and they've gotten better. They're reaching historic levels yet again, not just the three-point shooting recently, but our colleague Tim Reynolds tweeting out after the game that Miami, one of 3 teams in NBA history to go on a 10-game losing streak and then follow that up with a 5-game win streak or more than 5-game win streak.
It's the worst losing streak in the Eric Spoelstra era, and they follow that up with the best winning streak of their season. I mean, you tell me what this Heat team is. Who knows?
Heat basketball.
It's
hard
baby.
To predict. Yeah, it's hard to predict. Look, to that point, hasn't Spo always typically gotten the most out of his teams as the season progresses? And he's had a lot more talent, and then certainly they've been much more competitive, and they've been looked as, if not necessarily contenders, at least dark horse contenders. And I think that's kind of fitting in line here. I look, who knows what's going to happen? The play-in tournament is a challenge. They're going to have to win those games. And I know that still feels like it's far in the future, and maybe it's too early to exactly say what's going to happen there. Miami can still continue climbing up the standings, something we'll talk about throughout the show. But in terms of if they're able to get the 8th seed or 7th seed or whatever, and they're able to match up against some of these top teams, I would expect now where they are at that they'll be a lot more competitive. They probably will not win a first-round matchup. I mean, I would almost 100% bet that. Right. There's a slim chance, but it's more of a chance than existed a few weeks ago, and I would not have given them that kind of credit. But I think they're playing better, and that's all you want.
And at the very least, maybe it might be interesting to watch versus what we were thinking during this 10-game losing streak, which was like, please, can we end this season? Can we just abort, 65 games into the season? It would be nice. Quick rundown of this game, just to hit some of the highlights here. Miami, they start Tyler Herro, Alec Burks, Pelle Larsson, Bam Adebayo, and Khalil Ware for the third straight game, sorry. Second straight game?
Second straight game.
Second straight
Wiggins
game.
played.
No Andrew Wiggins, right. So no Andrew Wiggins, no Duncan Robinson again in this one. Also no Davion Mitchell, late scratch because of a last-minute illness here. We did get Khalil Ware versus Alex Sarr, which was what this game was being billed as. So there you go. Sarr's actually come along strong for Washington.
Yes.
Over these last couple of months, he's been pretty. He could win Rookie of the Year. He probably will. And then, but Khalil Ware, I thought got the better of him a couple of times, including in the post once. Nice little footwork into a spin move over the shoulder shot over Sarr. So that was kind of fun. We got a Bam putback dunk in this game that was electric. He had 16 points in the first quarter. Speaking of dunks, Marcus Smart missed a wide open dunk. Really weird to watch Marcus Smart playing and going up and down the court in a Wizards jersey.
But he had a flop that was also familiar, though, wasn't it? I mean, when Jaime kind of spun into him and he was already diving as soon as Jaime turned the corner, it was wonderful. And it was like, yeah, that's Marcus Smart, all right. So it was.
Do you feel bad for him? Considering that he was just like the arch nemesis. I do a little bit, man.
Nah.
He was an arch nemesis, but you respected him, didn't you? And now he's got to play for Washington? He gets traded from Boston. They win the championship. Then he gets traded from Memphis, and now he has to play for the Wizards?
Yeah, I don't feel too bad for him. Yeah, that's rough, but he had plenty of success.
That's right. I understand.
Yeah, defensive player of the year. Come on.
That's true. He did steal the defensive player of the year from Bam, but I blame the Boston media more than Marcus Smart for that. What is he supposed to be? Like, he's going to turn down the award? No. Khalil Ware, speaking of dunks again, missed what could have been Miami's dunk of the year, where he almost slammed it over Rashawn Holmes, missed it, so that was unfortunate. Miami leads by 14 at halftime, despite going 3 of 17 from 3 in the first half. Pelle Larsson scores 6 points in the third quarter. We're going to talk about him here in a second. Jordan Poole went off in that third quarter and took a lot of joy in making a lot of threes while his team was down 15 points.
Jordan Poole, baby. That's the Jordan Poole experience.
We
Look,
got
I was a little concerned, but what are you going to do? Like, you give up points, you got to give up. He's probably the one NBA player, and that designation might be like the best compliment he's received in a while on this roster. He really stands up, but that's not saying much. Nobody else does. So
look at
he
the
had
box
his
score,
moments.
man, for Washington.
Yeah.
It looks weird. It's 35 points for Jordan Poole, 8
Nobody
and 5
else.
points for the other starters. It's like an 8-pointer here, and that's it. And then you got a Vukcevic guy who scored 14 points off the bench, and to complete your random NBA player bingo card there. We got a Terry Rozier to Jaime Jaquez's lob dunk, the doghouse lob dunk there in transition. That was fun. And then we got a Summer League team victory cigar to end this thing. The Heat, though, might have found a long-term piece that can't be taken out of the rotation. We'll tell you who it is and talk about that when we get to credit cookies after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out or buying stuff online or maybe even a few entertainment expenses, it's easy to lose track. But that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When you start using Monarch, you'll realize just how much you might be spending on food delivery. I was in the same boat. Now I budget smarter and save much more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com and you get 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA when you go visit monarchmoney.com today. Today's show is also brought to you by PrizePicks. Baseball season's in full swing. Go Marlins. And there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, well, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. PrizePicks keeps every game exciting. Listen, why don't you make it easy on yourself? Pick Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run, Shohei Ohtani for more than 1 stolen base. It's that easy. And you can set up a lineup in less than 60 seconds. When you win, your payout is quick and secure. Take advantage of Taco Tuesday, where PrizePicks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. We'll be right back.
We're on a roll here. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Your favorite NBA team is a free daily newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Heat newsletter, one stop for ultimate Heat and league coverage with local analysis and amazing writing from Katie Heindel, Mike Shear, and Locked On fantasy basketball tips from Josh Lloyd. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. It's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat. 5th straight win for Miami. We've got 10 credit cookies to hand out. Who's getting them?
I'm going to start off with Bam Adebayo because that's how he started off the game, looking incredibly dynamic. He finished the night with 28 points on 11 of 19 shooting, also 2 of 5 from three-point range, continuing his hot shooting from behind the arc. Strangely enough, missing 3 free throw attempts, 4 of 7 at the line, but he also added 12 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block with just 1 turnover in 31 minutes. He was great tonight, really productive. Probably could have played better. Something about the Wizards matchups, just whoever they've had there, he just seems to kind of want to feast on that lineup. And he looked like he was aggressive. He looked like he was never bothered by anything or anyone that they threw at them. There wasn't really much of a challenge in terms of what they could bring defensively. You pointed that out already. Yeah. And Bam certainly looked comfortable, whether he was shooting or attacking the rim, catching lobs, whatever it was, finishing at the rim. Like, he was sensational tonight.
Had a couple of really nice in rhythm early in the shot clock threes. And he's been doing that more often in these last couple of games during this win streak. Like, yeah, go ahead, take him early in the shot clock. If you're open, you're feeling it, take that shot. How many cookies did you give him?
I gave him 3. He took one of those 3-pointers right after Sarr had hit one from the corner, and he kind of Sarr got open. I think he kind of didn't think he was going to be able to knock it down, or maybe misjudged the defense a little bit. Kind of left him open in the corner. Kind of put his head down, went down court, got the ball from behind the arc, let it fly, nail the three-pointer. So a nice answer there. So I really like that performance from Bam. And then the other top cookie getter, well, none other than Tyler Herro, who continues his hot shooting night. He gets 3 credit cookies for his 27-point outing, 9 of 19 from the floor, a perfect 9 of 9 from the line. Also added 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Great night for him overall, despite 0 for 6 shooting from three-point range. I don't know if we could have pointed out to that kind of performance from Tyler earlier in the season because the three-point shooting was such a big part of his offense. But to finish the night, 27 points, despite not hitting a three-pointer, that's impressive. So he gets 3 credit cookies as well.
So doing the quick math here, 9 of 13 on 2-pointers plus the free throw attempts, which all came on 2-point attempts. I mean, this guy dominated in the paint against Washington. And again, it's the Wizards. But this is something that's been happening with Tyler Herro. This guy is a legitimate 3-level scorer now. Legitimate. He's always been good from the mid-range. He was just over-indexed. He was taking too many of them. Now, you know, the 3-point shot has really come along in a huge way. It led to his All-Star berth for the first time in his career. And then since the All-Star game has countered these defenses that are trying to run him off the line by really developing these 2-point games. He's got this the swim move now down. Yeah. You know, he's got that upward sweeping motion with both hands on the ball, and he gets it's getting him to the foul line a lot more. He's averaging 5 free throw attempts a game or more right now, and that's just for the season. It's probably more than that since the All-Star break. And he's got a couple of moves kind of down packed now, and it's really part of his toolbox. And this stuff is so helpful. He's getting to the line now. He's making these 2-pointers at a really elite clip. These drives to the basket are open because teams just respect him so much from the 3-point line that they're forcing him off the line, and he's taking advantage of them. And he had a couple of them where just super quick decisions, catches the ball, sees that they're closing out hard, using that aggressiveness against the defense, and then just getting to the basket. It's been a joy to watch. It was a little bit of a slump after the All-Star break, but he's figured out the counter to the counter, and now he's playing as well as he has all season.
Yeah, I want to make a point, and I don't know if you agree or not. I don't think he's playing better as the season has progressed, but he certainly looks stronger to a level that we could not have said at any other point throughout his career. He's a guy who drops weight. Like we know all about the offseason regimen and muscle watch and everything else that he does in the offseason, all the training and hard work he puts on. But usually that kind of withers away as the season progresses. NBA players drop a lot of weight, and that kind of ate at him. And you could tell, like, he wasn't strong enough. He wasn't physical enough to be able to get to the line. He wasn't able to absorb contact and finish despite the contact. He's gotten better in that regard as the season has progressed. So I don't know if his overall game is better because the 3-point shooting has maybe taken a slight step back. But despite that, I think he's still just he looks stronger. He just looks like he's a more complete player than he was.
He's running through guys. He's okay with the straight line drives. It doesn't always end in a floater for him. He's played 70 games for the first time in his entire career. This was his 71st game, and he's already played 200 more minutes than he ever has more in his career, right? And so he's really starting to fill out and come into his own. Who's next?
I've got 2 credit cookies going to another starter, Pelle Larsson.
There we go.
I mean, that kid at 15 points, a plus 18 overall, 7 of 13 from the floor, missed all of his 3-point attempts, but also added 7 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal. Really complete game for him. And I saw some things out there. There was one possession where he was kind of waving at Jaime Jaquez and telling him, go, 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 like he wanted the isolation against Jordan Poole. And then Poole and him were kind of going at each other. Like, I mean, maybe that's not the right level of competition for a guy like Larsson. But at the same time, you like seeing that kind of attitude from a rookie. And I texted you about it because I was really impressed that he's much more comfortable out there. Like, again, he's a rookie. He's European. He's a college player. You know, you don't expect him to come into the league as a second-round pick and be like, okay, I feel comfortable here. I know where I belong. I know that I belong here. That's not an attitude that a lot of second-round picks have in general. And for him to be out there showing that kind of spicy attitude alongside some real productive outings lately, it's been a real good season for him, and I think he's a good piece that we should talk about a little bit more.
Yeah, we might have to put a pin in this conversation for the next segment, but just overall in terms of his box score tonight, I don't even care that he missed the threes. 7 of 9 from 2-point range. Just doing it on cuts.
Always at the rim.
They're not calling plays. Always at the rim. They don't call a single play for this guy, and they shouldn't. He's a second-round pick. Don't call any plays for him. He's not going to start he might want to isolate against Jordan Poole every once in a while, but he's doing it on backdoor cuts. He's doing it on cuts. And I texted you half jokingly. I'm like, is he the best off-ball cutter the Heat have had since like prime Dwayne Wade? And obviously, the Heat have had a lot of great cutters. Jimmy Butler was an incredible cutter. But the fact that he's doing this, like you mentioned, the comfortability that he has, like he's just seeing the floor and he's timing these cuts. He had one where Tyler Herro drove to the basket and Larsson just cuts baseline at the exact right moment, and Tyler just dumps it off to him right when both defenders step up to him. And it was just an easy layup for Larsson. I'm just like, the spacing has been really good with the offense overall, but you combine Herro and his driving that we were just talking about and Larsson and his off-ball cutting. And I mentioned this the other night where Khalil Ware got the offensive rebound and then tossed it out to Tyler Herro for a three-pointer. And when you're marrying two strengths, that's what we call chemistry. And when you're marrying Tyler Herro's new strength in terms of driving to the basket and Larsson's new discovered ability to be cutting off the ball, that's chemistry. Like the Heat are developing chemistry here.
He's a smart player. I think he understands the game. He does have good feel for it, and it's gotten better. Like I don't think the level of athleticism or speed was ever too much for him to handle, but it's a transition, and some rookies don't ever make that transition, no matter how talented they might be or how highly they might be drafted. It could take years to develop. He's gotten better over the course of the season. And maybe, again, it's just against the Wizards and some inferior opponents, but these are productive outings. You have to look at these as positives. And I think
NBA players, right? And a lot of second-round picks
absolutely
don't end up being NBA players. So
absolutely.
We will talk a little bit more about what his role going forward looks like. But in 30 seconds, can you give me the rest of the credit cookies?
You mentioned them before. The Doghouse duo, Terry Rozier and Jaime Jaquez, they get one apiece. They had a couple double-digit outings off the bench, and I don't know if they were necessarily great. Terry shot well from the perimeter, 3 of 7 for 15 points. Jaime was great, 2 of 2, 6 of 9 overall for 14 points. Also chipped in 7 rebounds. Had a nice little, again, showing off what we expect from Jaime and his limited playing time, and he was really productive. That it came against the Wizards, whatever, you take it.
First credit cookies for Rozier and Jaime since January.
That's a long drought there.
Yeah.
I mean, the team wasn't winning, but nobody was getting credit cookies.
Hungry in that doghouse for some cookies.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all the credit cookies?
That's it. Yeah,
that's
3,
it.
3,
that's
2, 1 and 1.
Pelle Larsson, long-term piece. We're going to get to that. Plus, the Heat, they're kind of moving up the standings here, and that could kind of mess up my whole tanking thing. We're going to talk about all that next, coming up.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting courtside. But if you want to catch a game in person, well, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever before. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. You check the Game Time app, there are amazing deals and some huge matchups coming up. Game Time Picks even highlights their super deals, giving you the best bang for your bucks. And you get peace of mind with their Seat Views feature before you buy tickets. You get no surprise fees. You know exactly where you're going to be sitting. It's so convenient. It's what makes Game Time the best place to get tickets for any event that you might be looking for. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply, but create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you get $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Today's episode is also brought to you by Ariete Hospitality. Hey, Miami Heat fans, are you looking to elevate your game day experience? Well, check out 2 must-visit spots just steps away from the Kaseya Center in downtown Miami. First up, there's the Brasserie Laurel, a culinary gem in the Miami World Center recommended by the Michelin Guide. Laurel offers an upscale French brasserie experience, blending old world charm with modern flair. Whether you're enjoying delicious bites or sipping craft cocktails, it's the perfect spot before or after the game. And don't miss their happy hour specials every day from 5 to 7 p.m. Next, you can head over to El Vecino, a sophisticated cigar bar with a laid-back vibe. It's the ideal pre- or post-game hangout, or even a place to watch the game. Enjoy exceptional cocktails, bites, and a welcoming atmosphere for all, including non-smokers. They've got a happy hour daily.
Not to cut you off, but that's the perfect game day, isn't it?
Yes.
You go to Brasserie Laurel for the 5 to 7 happy hour. They do amazing cocktails, have a great wine list there, whatever. You want beer, they got that. And then you just walk over to El Vecino. You watch the game there while smoking a cigar. If you don't have tickets to the game, if you do have tickets to the game, you walk to the arena, then you walk back after the game, and then you have a victory cigar for yourself.
So convenient. It's the best option you can possibly think of. And they've got their own happy hour too, from 4 to 7 p.m. daily. Both of these incredible venues, plus the Taurus, the site of our last few winning watch parties,
4-0,
are
baby.
part of the Ariete Hospitality Group, known for elevating Miami's dining scene. So don't miss out on these game-changing spots. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Really quick Andrew Wiggins injury update. Eric Spoelstra was asked about Wiggins, and he, to no surprise, gave no real update. He said that there's no timetable, that he's making some progress, and when asked if he will play again, if Wiggins will play again this season, Eric Spoelstra reiterated, no new update. So, TBD on
Not good,
Andrew
though, right?
Wiggins.
I mean, that doesn't sound optimistic to me.
No,
It's
I would
just,
say that sounds pretty pessimistic to me.
yeah.
You can't even
The
tell us he's
idea
going to
of
play
not
again
playing
this year?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels shades of what happened with Terry last year, too, like where it's all of a sudden
Duncan?
something.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And Duncan also obviously hurt. So,
Yep.
a lot of whatever noise Miami can make in the play-in tournament and beyond that, if they get beyond that, would depend on Wiggins and Duncan being available, I think.
Mhm.
But at least
Unless
one
Pelle
player
Larsson
has
keeps
helped.
playing like this, I guess.
We're both making the same transition there, so that's good.
No, and we're both half joking. Obviously, you would need Wiggins in the playoffs. But, I mean, Larsson has been great. And we were asked a couple games ago, is he somebody that should just always be in the rotation? Should he just be a staple in the rotation? And I don't really know how to answer it. And frankly, I don't know that it matters. If Wiggins isn't going to play again, then he will. He's just going to play. Larson's going to play. He's sort of the best Wiggins replacement, which is why he started the last couple of games. Because he gives you that length, the size. There's a physicality to his game.
Yep.
There's just like an off-ball kind of. He's got a connective nature to him that Jaime doesn't quite have, and even Haywood Highsmith, he's not connective the way that Larsson is, right?
Right.
And I think that's what they're looking for in that spot. Not, and both of those guys played really well tonight, but Larsson just is a little bit more of a connector, and I think that's what you're looking for in that spot in that starting group. I'm trying. Look, I think the Heat have found something in the second round. There's no question. Larsson's a good basketball player. How good, I don't know. But I'm trying to think, like, what's his best case scenario? Like, what it's in terms of his career? What's the player comp for him?
I know it's not an exact one. I made it pre-draft. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, and maybe it's not appropriate necessarily, but it kind of felt very Max Strus-ish to me, a guy who's probably overlooked in terms of his athleticism, that there's a lot more bounce there than you might expect from a white player that doesn't necessarily, that had injury issues and things of that sort, or wasn't necessarily a highly touted draft pick or anything like that. And then he kind of just got better as a three-point shooter throughout his NBA career and became known as a knockdown shooter, but also could provide a little defense, could make some plays, similar to what you're saying in terms of that connective value. You need a guy like Max out there because he made the starting lineup hum in a way that Duncan couldn't. Duncan gives you elite three-point shooting. He's the best shooter, perhaps one of the best shooters in NBA history, and certainly one of the best in Miami Heat history. But there's something that he's not necessarily that kind of connective guy. And it's the little things too. Like we talked about it earlier when we were giving the cookies out to Pelle, but his knack for being around the ball, for making things happen, not just the intensity and the effort and the hustle and all those things. Those are vital to him continuing to get more playing time. But he just does these little things like the timing, being around the basket, understanding when the shot's coming off the rim and being in position and being strong enough to go up against those larger bodies out there under the
Doesn't sound
basket.
anything like Max Strus. Can I give you a player comp?
Yeah. Do it, man. Let's hear it.
Josh Hart?
Yeah, I could see that.
Pelle Larsson's not a
You're
good
right.
throopoint shooter. Like Strus
Josh
is
Hart.
overrated as a three-point shooter. Like he gets
Yes.
hot at the best moments,
Sure.
and he's obviously not I know he looks like a guy who should be able to shoot threes. He's not good at shooting threes, and he's about league average. But Josh Hart is one of these guys who plays bigger than his size, really strong
I like
despite
that.
the frame.
I like
Good
that.
rebounder, cuts, just does these little things. He's a little Josh Hart-like, and Josh Hart's a good player. He's one of the best 100
You
players
need
in the
them.
league. Yeah,
You need guys like that.
you
And
do.
they help win. And
Hmm.
you're not going to overpay for a player like that, but at the same time, you want to make sure you keep
Yep.
them. And the
Yep.
fact that they were able to draft him when I don't know that anybody else would have necessarily taken a chance on him, but he just kind of fit a need for Miami. He's made an impact as a rookie, and it's a good comp. I like that because you're right. It's those that annoying knack for just being there, making the right play, diving into people, and look, it's just there's a little recklessness to Josh Hart's game. I know Heat fans certainly are familiar with that, and at the
Yeah.
same time, you kind of want that on your side of the ball too. So
Larson's
it's a really good
been
comp.
Larson's gotten caught bleeding a couple times this season. Like
Yeah,
he's in there, man.
yeah.
Real quick, just a quick look at the standings after tonight's results. Miami wins, Orlando loses. I'm pretty sure Chicago ended up losing. I think that game's over. Yeah, Chicago ended up losing to Oklahoma City. So here's our standings update here. The Heat gaining a little bit of ground here. They have moved a half game up on Chicago for that 9 spot. So Miami's moved up from 10 to 9. But they are a game and a half back of Orlando in that 8 spot. So the Heat are still alive to potentially move up over these last 8 games from that 9-10 game where you've got to win 2 games in a row to make the playoffs to that 7-8 matchup where you get 2 chances to win 1 game and make the playoffs. That's a big difference. And for people, Heat fans still holding out hope for a playoff berth, which is not nothing. I know I'm on the tank train, but that's not nothing.
The
Very
Hawks
much
have 8 games left.
it's much more possible if they're in that 7-8 game. Sorry.
The Hawks have 8 games left on their schedule. Miami has 7 games left on their schedule. So,
Not sure you're
less
catching Atlanta
opportunity
at
there, but
2.5.
you have to hope that the Hawks will lose a couple games here and there, and they're certainly capable of. I mean, I know they've won some recently. They're 6-4 over their last 10, but at the same time, it's certainly and the Magic, like they started off the year so hot, but the injuries just kind of torpedoed their whole season. And incorporating these players back, their offense is still a daily struggle. They're a fun team and a good team, but hey, you know what? Miami could wind up winning the Southeast Division and wind up being the 7th seed somehow, despite a 10-game losing streak. That would be
another
miraculous.
Southeast Division win. Catching Atlanta is going to be really hard. They're just it feels like they're a little too far away, but it's possible. It's still possible. So yeah, that's your standings update. A little worried about the lottery position, but
You haven't done a tankathon in a while. Is that still an option?
I clicked on it a couple of times. I mean, they're still in the lottery. They still got a chance, but they've gone from that 8th spot, 8th best odds in the lottery to 10th or 11th. Now I can actually check. Let me get
See,
the
look,
exact
my,
number on that.
Atlanta's schedule
11th.
right now, looking at it, Atlanta's schedule, I mean, they're up against Portland tomorrow, Dallas again Wednesday at Dallas, so back-to-back there. Then they go to New York on Saturday, Utah at home versus Utah on Sunday, and then they're at Orlando, at Brooklyn, at Philadelphia, and Orlando to wrap the season up. So those Orlando games are crucial for both those teams.
Yeah.
But that's good. That's a good opportunity there because
Let
both
them
of them are
duke
kind
out.
of, one of them will have to lose, and that gives an opportunity to Miami. They just have to continue to find a way to string up some victories. At this point, it's all about what they can control. They can only focus on themselves and making sure that they play the best basketball possible. A 5-game win streak certainly helps.
2% odds to get the number 1 pick so far, though. Right now, if the lottery is held today. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.